Thank you, Sam, and thank you the rest of the IBM team. On the agenda today is a few topics that we'll want to cover. As you can see, first, share the leadership and the solutions of IBM and VMware. I will talk through the overall VMware vision and where IBM and VMware cloud vision actually merges. We'll also discuss the VMware APIs that support SDS today, and then Chandra will go through the IBM portfolio and how it works how it works with the VMware platform and the Agile infrastructure. So let me talk about the relationship between the two companies. This is a relationship that extends over 14 years. It is a long-standing partnership. IBM and VMware have an extensive portfolio of proven virtualization solutions that are running in thousands and thousands and thousands of customers around the globe. We continue to have deep integration between the products. Our product teams and our engineering teams have worked together extensively over the last 14 years or so to deliver flawless integration between the two solutions. We have comprehensive services and support, and really mainly we have tier 1 application platform support, right? So, the core message is that VMware SDDC runs on IBM infrastructure flawlessly. We deliver 3 core things that I think we want to emphasize, right? One is continue to dramatically reduce the complexity of IT operations today, right? A lot of that is due through abstractions, automation, and virtualization. Secondly, significantly lower IT costs, right? So this was certainly the case back in the days of server consolidation and reducing OpEx and CapEx, but really with the management with automation, we can still drive significantly lower IT costs into the enterprise today. And then third, and not least, and this is really critical, is increasing IT flexibility and business agility. I mean, this is really critical today, and I'll tell you why. When we talk about the VMware vision, right, it is predicated on the notion of any device, any application, and one cloud, right? So that's really what we've driven to market over the last few years. And really the core premise is that SDDC is essentially the operating system for the data center, right? So this is the core data center OS. By virtue of that, right, we extend unparalleled agility and flexibility by virtualizing core compute, core storage, and core networking, right? So that abstraction layer becomes extremely critical because that's where the flexibility, the pliability, and the manageability really lies, right? So virtualization then allows you to stretch any type of application across any type of hardware, right? So whether it's x86 servers, whether it's storage, whether it's networking. Now, that functional layer then can now extend across multiple data centers, right? And I think more importantly, across multiple clouds, right? So on-prem and both off-prem. And really when it comes to, our relationship with IBM, that certainly applies to software. When you look at the public cloud extension that we can actually do, or vCloud Air, which is the VMware Cloud, or AWS. But that can also extend to managed service providers like VirtuStream, Rackspace, and also vCloud Air as well. Now, when you tie it all in, and this is where the device piece comes in, is all these services are now delivered to the end user, right? So we as end users have this tremendous benefit of getting all these services through our devices, through our thin client, through our desktops, right? So now any applications, whether they be cloud native apps, whether they be traditional apps, can now be delivered securely anywhere on any device, right? So that's really what we actually bring together and what we've delivered. Now, Where does IBM fit in all this, right? So we truly believe, and we've established this, that IBM Storage and VMware share a common vision of private and hybrid cloud leveraging really the data center OS, SDDC. And this is manifesting itself in several ways when you look at the content, right? So on the private cloud, we obviously have extensive supportability with IBM infrastructure today. As previously mentioned, you can also leverage the IBM cloud, right, through SoftLayer, which is something that we announced, I believe, at the beginning of 2016, actually more specifically in February of this year. We extended and announced a strategic partnership designed to essentially help enterprise take better advantage of the cloud speed and economics. So customers are now, able to leverage certainly trusted VMware technologies that they've run in their private data center for an extensive period of time, but they can also take advantage now of the growing IBM footprint of 45 cloud data centers across the globe. So obviously quite a bit of collaboration on that very front. We also have collaboration in establishing a common management and networking platform, right, through our integration with NSX, VRO, and VRA, really giving our clients the capabilities to leverage the established common management and networking platform. On the device side, again, the supportability extends to all the work and all the integration that we've done, allowing our customers to run our end-user computing products either on-prem, so running Horizon 7 or Workspace ONE on-prem, fully supported on the IBM infrastructure, or really the ability to run the same type of infrastructure in the cloud, right? So through, desktop as a service, powered by IBM, but really running the VMware framework, right? So again, tremendous amount of synergy in how the two companies are basically helping our customers, through the journey to the cloud. Now, I mentioned the coverage and I mentioned the integration, and I can't emphasize how critical this is. I usually view strong integration as a foundation requirement for interoperability, right? So when we look at storage and availability, cloud infrastructure, networking and security, really on the storage side, all the core integrations are fully covered, right? Virtual volume, VASA, Site Recovery Manager or SRM Stretch. Actually, IBM was a day zero partner, meaning they had the integration for SRM Stretch in the version of vSphere at day zero as we announced it, not plus 30, 60, or 90 day. It was basically on par with the VMware release. Same with VAI, same with VADP for data protection, VMCS for Metro Cluster, and of course PSA. So all those core integrations are running today, and the same is applicable for vRealize Automation, vRealize Operations, and VMware NSX. So this is a critical element, and I can't emphasize, I see the work that the engineering group on both sides of the fence do to make certain that this actually runs and is released on time. So this is a long extended list, and I'm not going to cover every single point, but I think the emphasis should be made on, one, the integration, which we covered in the previous slide, but really two, the customer value, right? So what are we delivering to the customer on the other end as a virtue of our fantastic and great integration, right? So when it comes to the plugin, obviously the ability to discover data store down to the IBM storage volume, for example, or file share. When you look at VASA, optimize, VM storage placement and be able to do so through automation, making the life of the storage admin exceedingly easier. When you look at, the VMware VASA for the API 2.0, same thing. The administrator can offload, granular level snapshot and cloning to the IBM storage, right? So these are, extensive capabilities that we expand. When you go down to Orchestrator and VRA, the VRA administrator can apply for sample, a very simple IBM storage discovery and provision in custom automated workflows. And when you start thinking about VR ops, again, a central view of IBM storage alerts and events, be able to view, rich and critical trends set of, through the IBM storage stack. So all those things are really delivered as a function of all the core integration that goes into, delivering a fully supported platform that is really, a core piece of the infrastructure run, again, by thousands and thousands and thousands of customers, on the global level. So, from the VMware side, I mean, this is a partnership that is extensive. It continues to grow. The announcements that we made in early February related to, the cloud and leveraging software are absolutely huge, right? So really extending the flexibility not only to what our customers are doing on-prem, but really giving them the flexibility and economics and the speed and agility and flexibility of the cloud as well, by leveraging IBM software and then just really doing all that seamlessly, right? And this is a vision that we carry forward. And Chandra on the IBM team will kind of go through some of the very specific aspect of the product on the storage side and how they work with VMware. So I will leave it there. I know that there's a poll question, so I'll let Sam and the rest of the team kind of run through that, and IBM go through their piece as well.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Yes, we do have a couple of polls that we're going to run real quick before we let Chandra take over. First one is, which IBM Spectrum storage product do you currently use with VMware? And you can select all that apply for this one. All right, reached about half of the audience that's been polled at this point. We'll let it run another 10 seconds or so everyone gets a chance to answer the question. We'll give this another 5 seconds or so if anyone wants to get a last-minute vote in. All right, so it looks like a good section of the audience is using Spectrum Virtualized Storewise, and then equally almost is Spectrum Accelerate and Spectrum Protect. And then a good chunk of the audience is not using any of them at all. All right, so we have one more quick poll question. Of these options here, what do you currently use? Private cloud storage, public cloud storage, hybrid cloud storage, or don't use cloud storage at all? All right, leave this open for another 10 seconds or so. We got most of the audience in at this point. All right. So it looks like the majority, actually, of you are not using cloud storage currently, 47%, and then 31% are using hybrid, and 22% are using private cloud. All right, well, great. Well, thank you for answering those questions. And with that, I will hand this over to Chandra and let him talk through his section here.
All right, thank you, Sam. Again, first I want to thank Daniel for spending some time with us on this webinar. Daniel is a Global Director for Strategic Alliances at VMware. He was kind enough to spend some time talking about not just VMware's vision, but also how IBM supports that vision. We were, as most of you on the audience know, we are doing regular webinars IBM storage, and we were looking at various topics. And with VMware coming next week, we thought it's a good idea to bring somebody from VMware and talk about how we work jointly on storage. So that's really why we're having this webinar. If you notice, the title of the webinar is how software-defined storage works with VMware. The focus is specifically on software-defined storage, not necessarily the overall storage or traditional storage. So I wanted to spend some time on why software-defined storage. Why are we talking specifically about software-defined storage? There has been a lot of talk about software-defined storage for at least, I'll say, 4 years now. Between the various storage vendors in the industry, there's been a lot of talk. So I wanted to share some results from a survey IDC did last December. I used to present about software-defined storage even like 3-4 years ago. At that time, it sounded more like a vision from some of the top storage vendors, a lot of analysts talking about it. And when I used to talk about it, most of the IT practitioners were skeptical about it, and they were not sure. Yeah, this sounds like a great vision. Are we really there yet? Well, it's been a few years, and I think the results from IDC are very encouraging. What they're finding out is, about 60+% of the people are actually seeing tangible benefits. One promise of software-defined storage was always about reduction in costs, whether it's CapEx or OpEx. That's one of the main things, the audience said, the survey participants said last year. And this was done at Gartner's survey last year in December. And then the next benefit was ease of management. And you can see the remaining two, no vendor lock-in for hardware, right? CapEx and OpEx makes a lot of sense, right? The whole point about software-defined storage is, we're giving the software to run on any hardware, so you're no more tied to a particular underlying hardware. That's what allows you to reduce your capital expenses by going with any server vendor, but also gives you a lot of flexibility in choosing the underlying hardware. But not only that, because it's all implemented in software, there's a lot of automation in managing day-to-day tasks of storage, and that's where the OpEx savings come in. So we always talked about it, all the vendors talked about it, the industry talked about it, but now people are seeing real benefits from it. But the other key statement which IDC made last year is bullet number 2 here, right? It's SDS is here to stay. That's an important one. Initially, the type of firms which deployed software-defined storage were really large firms, large enterprises. Actually, it started from service providers. Because of the large scale they had, they really had a desperate need to figure out a way to cut down their costs and get more agility in their infrastructure. So they started off with software-based storage. But then, seeing that success, the larger enterprises started doing it. I'm talking about large financial institutions, big banks, big hospitals. They saw the benefit of running software-defined storage because they had a desperate need for flexibility and reducing costs. But now we are seeing even smaller organizations taking advantage of this, and that I think is reflected in the bullet number 2 here on this slide from IDC. That's what they're finding from survey from real practitioners. And the last thing, I think this is very important, is supplies with a portfolio approach. What I mean by that is the following, right? So when we talked about software-defined storage about even 1 year ago, there wasn't a commonly agreed definition of software-defined storage. It's not just that different vendors have defined it in different ways. Even the various analyst firms between IDC and Gartner and Forrester, there wasn't a very solid common understanding. But I think we have come to a point where I think everybody agrees, at the highest level, it's abstraction of the storage, data management layer, the software from the underlying hardware, right? So the software can run on any hardware, and all of the intelligence is in the software. So that part, I think everybody agrees. But still, there's no agreement on how it's deployed, how it's implemented. And then the reason for that is, if you look at the top 5 or 6 storage firms in the storage industry, everybody has pushed a particular definition, and the definition matches their particular implementation of software-defined storage. Some companies have taken a file-based storage and called that as, this is the software-defined storage. Some companies have taken out a scale-out block storage and say that is software-defined storage and nothing else. And I've seen, even hyper-converged guys, which is also a form of software-defined storage, calling their software as the only software-defined storage and everything else is gone. And we are even seeing firms who are shipping these as appliances but still calling it software-defined storage. Again, different people are calling different things as software-defined storage. And the reason is not just because they're trying to match with what they ship, but also if you look at the data center and they look at the various business applications, different types of applications require different types of storage. Depending on the workload, sometimes a file-based storage makes the most sense. Sometimes a block-based storage makes sense, and sometimes object storage is the right answer. Or sometimes you want something to virtualize everything else you have in your data center. So different types of storage, software-defined storage makes sense depending on your particular situation, depending on what applications you're trying to host on. And that's where I think the portfolio approach is very important. If you see somebody saying, having just a file-based storage and saying that is the answer for everything, you're not benefiting completely from software-defined storage, because you'll still have a lot of applications missing out the advantages of software-defined storage. So let me spend a few minutes on what IBM is doing for software-defined storage, and then we'll talk about how we integrate with VMware, right? Like I said, different people are shipping it in different forms. Some are in software, some as an appliance. It can be appliance as long as it's not tied to the underlying hardware. It's not proprietary hardware. As long as it can ship on, as long as the software can run in any hardware. But it can run in the cloud as a service. So the entire software-defined storage portfolio of IBM can be shipped as software, as an appliance, or as a service in cloud. And if you talk to anybody who's been doing storage, you know that at the most foundational level, data is organized either as files or as blocks or as objects, each one suitable for a particular type of application or for a particular type of workload and the type of data, right? It's file, blocks, and objects. And in today's world, scale-up is no more good, right? Everybody's answer is scale-up. We want highly scalable solutions, scalable storage solutions, because it's only the need for data is only growing. It's doubling every 6 months, depending on the industry you look at. You want scalable solutions. So we got our answer for these data types are Spectrum Scale for your scale-out file storage, Spectrum Accelerate for scale-out block storage, and our latest acquisition, CleverSafe, which we now call IBM Cloud Object Storage. That's our answer for scale-out object. And one of the most mature products we have in our portfolio is Spectrum Virtualize, which you probably know as StoreWise. And that's an answer for virtualized storage. It not only virtualizes any of the IBM storage, but also it can virtualize heterogeneous storage, right? So you could actually plug in non-IBM storage underneath it, and it will virtualize that. So this is the foundation of IBM software-defined storage: Spectrum Scale, Spectrum Accelerate, and Cloud Object Storage, and Spectrum Virtualize. That's the storage layer. But if you're talking about storage, you obviously talk about where is it exactly sitting? What's the underlying storage media? And I want to say that we don't care. It's software-defined storage. You can actually put spinning drives. You can put flash drives. You can have a mix of flash and spinning as hybrid storage. And we support tape, and we also support cloud. Again, this is another important thing. The whole point of software-defined storage is to get more agility and flexibility in your data center, to make a business more agile. And we don't want to have any restrictions on what hardware is supported, whether it's supported only on-premise or in the cloud. So we support all the way from tape to cloud and everything in between, but not just underlying storage. Could be even non-IBM storage, and Spectrum Virtualize can virtualize that, right? But anytime you talk about storage, you also have to talk about how are you going to protect the application data. And that's where you need a solution to back up and archive and restore, and that's where Spectrum Protect comes. Again, one of the oldest products in the portfolio, what used to be known as TSM, that's our answer for backing up and archiving and restore. And finally, Spectrum Control for managing all of our storage solutions. In fact, Spectrum Control is actually a very critical component when we talk about our integration with VMware. Spectrum Control is actually the interface into VMware. It sits in front of any of our IBM storage, And Spectrum Control knows how to manage and operate the various storage products we have in our portfolio, but it acts as the common front end into VMware, supporting all the various VM interfaces. Just want to summarize that it's not enough to have one single point product to solve one particular application need. Some customers, some vendors have just one hyperconverged offering only to address the, let's say, the VDI market need. Or some people have only a solution for the archiving market need with an object storage solution. Some people only have the scale or block storage solution for the databases. But if you go to any data center, you will see applications for all types of needs, and you need a portfolio addressing all those needs. And that's where I think the strength of IBM Spectrum Storage lies, with a full end-to-end portfolio supporting any type of underlying hardware, whether it's tape or disk or flash, or storing in the cloud. Now, so that I just wanted you to have that background on what is IBM software-defined storage before we talk about how we support VMware. Now, we talked about a lot of products in the previous slides, right, the complete slide. So we have a detailed compatibility matrix, but I want to focus on Spectrum Accelerate. This is one of the products where we have some very deep integration with the VMware APIs. Daniel touched on some of these APIs, but I think the most important ones here are VAAI, vStorage integration, storage API for array integration, and VASA, vStorage APIs for awareness. I think these two are critical. For building their own private cloud. I mean, I think the survey also showed that a lot more people are using private cloud and hybrid cloud than just public cloud. This is becoming more and more important, the use of private and hybrid clouds. And when people are implementing that with VMware, it is critical that we have a solid integration with VMware, not for the sake of IBM's benefit, but for your applications to run smoothly. Seamlessly, you need this integration. In the absence of this integration, when I say this integration of IBM storage with VMware, if you're a VMware shop, if you don't have this integration, you're putting all of the storage management load on the VMware layer, on the hypervisor. That can applications, your business applications. What we're doing with all of, I mean, you see a number of integrations here, but the purpose of all of these integrations is to offload the work, data management tasks to the storage array. If you take VAAI as an example, so now all of the virtual machine copies, virtual machine migration is done by the storage array. In this case, Spectrum Accelerate or XIV. For example, you want to provision a new virtual machine. In the absence of array integration, VMware has to do the job of zeroing all the blocks, creating some empty space and creating LUNs and exporting it to VMware. But now that type of work is offloaded to the storage array for faster provisioning. That's what we mean by hardware-assisted management, hardware-assisted locking. Same thing with VASA. Now with VASA, we expose all of the what can the storage do, whether it's deduplication or thin provisioning, or just simply what rates are supported, what kind of performance can be expected is exported to vSphere and vCenter. That way, the VMware administrator can decide, what's the right storage profile for a given application's need. I'm just giving you examples of we have with these integrations. But what this slide is saying is, Spectrum Accelerate supports every one of the key APIs VMware has for storage arrays, from VAI, VASA, vRealize Orchestrator. You can see the complete list here. And the point again, as you go down into VAI and VASA are actually not even new. It's been there for at least for several years now with storage arrays. But with the newer ones like vRealize Orchestrator and vRealize Operations Manager, we're actually going into automating very complex IT operations across data centers and across clouds. I think that is key, right? In today's world, people want to take advantage of cloud type of infrastructure. So it's all service-based. They want to take advantage of private cloud in the off-premise, and capabilities like VRO and VROps will automate those IT tasks across data centers. So these are all critical, and the good news here is Spectrum Accelerate supports every one of them. There is one other thing I want to mention on Spectrum Accelerate before we move on. Spectrum Accelerate, as I mentioned in the previous slide, is our scale-out block storage software. It is one of the offerings we actually have available as a service in the cloud. One thing to know, you can actually get blocks as a service in the cloud, but also it's actually available as a virtual machine by itself. You can actually run Spectrum Accelerate as a virtual machine on a hypervisor in a scale-out fashion, and when you do that, you basically get a hyperconverged solution. So there's a separate webinar on that topic. It's called Hyperconverged Solution with Spectrum Accelerate. I'll spare the details on that because it's a separate topic, but something else to know that Spectrum Accelerate is one offering where we can run as a virtual machine. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention on the previous slide, these are all our software-defined storage offerings. Now, for every one of these, the foundation ones, the one in the middle row, Scale and Accelerate and Object Storage, they're all available as appliances also. I just want you to know the names very quickly. The appliance version or the system version of Spectrum Scale is Elastic Storage Server, which is our integrated storage solution for file and objects, available as a rack. Spectrum Accelerate, in fact, it was initially available as only as an integrated appliance, and that's XIV. I think XIV is a lot more popular than Accelerate. Cloud Object Storage is the software. It can be installed on-premise or off-premise, but we also have appliances based on that. Spectrum Virtualized, it's available as appliance too for the longest time, and that's your storewise. So the appliance equivalent of all of these blocks in the middle are Elastic Storage Server, XIV, IBM Object Storage, and storewise. So that's the background. Now we talked about Spectrum Accelerate and the various APIs. I wanted to talk a little bit about one specific use case, which I think is very interesting in the hybrid cloud storage world. By the way, this is I'm going to talk a bit about this, but this demo is actually available at to see in live at VMworld next week. So the demo here is the following, right? So on the left-hand side, you have your on-premise storage running on IBM XIV, which is the integrated system for Spectrum Accelerate. So the brains is Spectrum Accelerate shipped in the form of XIV. So the data is on XIV on the left-hand side on-premise. On the right-hand side, you have an instance of Spectrum Accelerate running in the cloud, in this case IBM soft layer. So you have Spectrum Accelerate both on-premise and off-premise. What we're trying to implement here is a disaster recovery solution with VMware's Site Recovery Manager, SRM. It's pretty simple. SRM is what manages the failover and give back between the applications. So when you have one data center going down, it's not able to access the data, it detects that and it does an automatic failover to the alternate storage. In this case, but we still need a way to copy the data, replicate the data from on-premise to off-premise, and that's done through software. Sorry, that's done through Spectrum Accelerate. Spectrum Accelerate, with its built-in mirroring, does replication of data from on-premise to off-premise, so the data is always there on the other side, and VMware SRM will detect any failover and it will do an automatic failback, and that's your disaster recovery solution with Spectrum Accelerate and VMware's SRM. Now, that's just one example of the joint integration and how it's used in hybrid cloud. You really should be coming to the VMworld IBM booth at VMworld next week to see this in live. I just talked about Spectrum Accelerate, but like I said, we have a full portfolio: Spectrum Virtualized, Spectrum Scale. There's I'm including a link here. This link is an internal link, but it's in our knowledge center. It's the place where you should go to get the latest compatibility matrix. This is a very long page, but I just took one table out of it. But the page includes every IBM storage product and what specific versions of IBM storage product is certified with what specific VMware APIs and the specific versions from VMware. So I just pasted an example of the StoreWise family here. What versions of StoreWise are supported, what VMware APIs are supported with what specific versions of the StoreWise family. You can see that we have similar tables for the rest of the IBM storage portfolio in the link I provided. But the point is, these APIs are very critical as we get into the private cloud and the hybrid cloud world, because a lot of people are building these clouds on VMware. Without this integration, you're putting heavy load on your on the business applications. These integrations offload all of that work to the storage array, make your business applications faster, and managing that a lot more seamless. We have a full set of integrations, and you saw the examples for Spectrum Accelerate and here for StoreWise family. But take a look at that link; you'll get a lot more detail. So you got so that's a story on the integration. But I want to end with some key takeaways. This line, what you're seeing here, modern business for all business users. I saw this in an article in Forbes magazine, and they put that based on an analyst report from Gartner. What Gartner and Forbes are arguing is, in today's world and going into the future, all the modern businesses are digital businesses. Majority of the world is connected to the internet. A lot of the data is coming through sensors and IoTs, and suppliers and consumers and producers. Everybody is connected to the net, and it's all going to be digital business. When it's digital businesses, all budgets are IT budgets, and for you to be competitive, for an organization to be competitive in a digital world, IT becomes the competitive weapon. Take an example of any two companies in the same industry. Take two big banks. They produce the same outputs to the end users. What they produce the same, but how they differentiate it is based on the underlying IT infrastructure is where the differentiation comes from, and how they respond to customer requests. And the modern IT infrastructure is no more just on-premise or the traditional infrastructure. It's all built on cloud, and when it's cloud, the foundation of cloud is software-defined data center. And of the three components of software-defined data center, which is software-defined storage, software-defined networking, and software-defined compute, software-defined storage is the most mature component of software-defined data center, and then it comes to, and it's important that you sooner or later you get to the software-defined storage to get the benefits we saw in the very first slide from IDC, benefits around flexibility and agility, but also cost savings at both capex and opex. And the last point I want to make is software-defined data center, software-defined storage. These were visionary as recently as 1 year back, but now they're a reality. It's no more just vision. It's no more just vendors talking about it. We have survey results from a very large conference showing that customers are seeing tangible benefits. So that's my last point. And one last thing before we end this webinar. So we are present, like I said multiple times, at VMware next week. We are in booth number 2035. You can see a lot more details about the promotions in this slide. I think you'll have access to this deck. And so come see us next week to not only see the solutions, but also the demos we have. That's pretty much the end of my webinar. Thank you, guys. I'll see if there are any questions now.
All right, thank you, Chandra. Yes, we will open up for questions now. If you would like to ask a question, you may do so using the chat window located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, for those of you who might have missed the introduction. We did have a couple come up during the course of the presentation. One was other storage vendors such as EMC also integrate with VMware, VASA, VVOL, and that just scrolled down, VRA, vCenter, etc. How is IBM's integration better?
This is Daniel. I'll take that. Having been at VMware for an extensive period of time, one of the things that's always been critical to us has been to support a heterogeneous environment. So we integrate with obviously thousands of other technology platforms, and that includes obviously multiple storage partners, whether it be IBM, EMC, NetApp, and so forth. So we work with all the reference partners and more to make absolutely certain that their customers are fully aware that running vSphere or running NSX on their platform is going to work, and it's going to work on day zero. Now, some partners are quicker to integrate than others. That is a resource question more than anything, or a timing question. But really, at the end of the day, supportability of platform is what we strive for. IBM has done a very, very good job over the last 14 odd years of being able to do that. The rest of the ecosystem has done it as well. Now, IBM solutions have specific core features that are identical or that are specific to their products, and they can speak to those, obviously, right, in terms of why they're better than a subsequent platform. But at the end of the day, what we absolutely need to do, and what I look for my partners to do along with my team, is make sure that that certification is done, that they integrate on time, and that we deliver a joint solution that our customers can basically use on day zero. Thank you. It's a good question.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. Another one that came through, is this IDC study and report on the SDS adoption and trends available for IBMers?
Yes, it is. Reach out to me, or you can actually look for it on Bluemind if you're an IBMer.
Okay, great. I'm talking about VMware and Spectrum Accelerate. Why is SDS Accelerate not supported on ESX 6.0, which is now used by the majority of clients, meaning as a hypervisor to run Accelerate on SDS on x86 servers?
I'll have to get back to that question separately.
Okay.
Offline.
After that, well, offline, that's fine. Is there a formal document and or white paper that lists all of the integrations that are available and is presentable to customers?
This is Daniel. Yes, we can certainly send out. I don't know who is asking the question, so you can reach out to Chandra directly, or you can reach out to me, Daniel, M-D-A-N-I-E-L-M, is in Mary at VMware.com, and we'll make sure that you have that. The other place where you can actually see where all the integrations are, this is our, it's called the HCL, or the Hardware Compatibility List. I think it's a misnomer because it's more than hardware, but that is essentially the centralized resource to basically look at all the current integration across all the different products. So look for the HCL and just send me an email. And then I think IBM definitely has additional set of resources, white papers, reference architecture on some of their core platforms. So Chandra can certainly make that available as well.
There's also a link in one of the slides to our knowledge center, which has the complete compatibility matrix. But if you want to show something to the customer, yeah, reach out to me and we'll show you something.
Great. And we'll also have, we'll be able to send a copy of all these questions to you, Chandra, so we'll be able to see who asked.
Okay.
Any other questions at this time? How does Spectrum Storage support hybrid cloud?
Well, Spectrum Storage is a family of products. Every one of the products, from Spectrum Scale to Spectrum Virtualize to Spectrum Protect, they all support reading and writing to cloud in one form or the other. I'll give you one example. Spectrum Scale, especially, we've announced a feature called transparent cloud tiering. What that allows you to do is it allows you to tier data from the storage underlying Spectrum Scale to the cloud based on a policy. So you can set a policy that after a certain time, or based on the either the age or the size or the type of the file, and various other parameters, you can say that the file should, when the conditions are met, should be tiered to a cloud, whether that is our own IBM Cloud Object Storage or some other Swift-based cloud. So that's an example of how we support a hybrid cloud. We have a similar story with Spectrum Protect now. We can actually back up to IBM Cloud Object Storage running in soft layer. So your backups are going as objects into the Cloud Object Storage.
Great, thank you. Another question.